The first fantasy adventure film of the massive prequel trilogy to the hugely successful Lord of the Rings adaptations was released worldwide earlier today on December 14, 2012. Academy Award-winning director Peter Jackson has once again transformed his home country of New Zealand into Middle-earth, meticulously bringing to life J.R.R. Tolkien's famous 1937 children's novel. Brought to life with some of the most astonishing visual effects I've ever seen, further amplified by powerfully immersive 3D shot at stunningly beautiful 4K resolution. Much has been said about Jackson's courageously optimistic decision to film an unexpected journey at 48 frames per second, double the industry standard, marking the first time a feature was ever filmed in this format. With more detail moving at a faster, more fluid rate of speed, this hyper-high-definition technique, at least on paper, was supposed to result in a more realistic and lifelike presentation. In practice, however, this amounts to nothing more than an immensely distracting gimmick that makes the faster action scenes almost uncomfortable to watch. In slower, steadier sequences, however, there were genuine moments where I would blink and be convinced I was looking at a real live human right in front of me. It takes some getting used to, amazing when it works, awful when it doesn't. So if you're on the fence about experimenting with this new format, I'd advise against seeing the high frame rate version, at least on your first screening. This simplistic story takes place 60 years before the previous films. Martin Freeman stars as the hapless and hesitant hobbit Bilbo Baggins, who was tasked by Ian McKellen, reprising his role as the stoic but whimsical Gandalf the Grey, to join a group of rowdy warrior dwarves on a mythical adventure to reclaim their homeland from an evil dragon.
Here, this is about your size.
I can't take this.
The blade is of elvish make, which means it will glow blue when orcs or goblins are nearby.
I have never used a sword in my life.
And I hope you never have to. But if you do, remember this. True courage is about knowing not when to take a life, but when to spare one.
With the notable exception of Richard Armitage as the lead dwarf, the entire company of 13 functions ostensibly as a single character, with little distinguishing them from one another. Opening the film with some smaller cameo-style appearances, Elijah Wood and Ian Holm return as Frodo and Bilbo respectively, and a delightfully nostalgic scene that immediately precedes the events of the Fellowship of the Ring. This scene doesn't contribute much, but it was a nice way to be eased back into Tolkien's lush universe. The opening chapter starts off excruciatingly slow, with lumbering scenes of exposition and a lengthy prologue. 40 minutes pass before the journey proper begins. With McKellen remarking to his party, "Home is now behind you, the world ahead," this picture is a more focused and light-hearted affair than its predecessors. While it's all the better for it, ultimately it is impossible for this picture to escape the shadow of the first trilogy. Comparisons are unavoidable, and at least with this first installment, fall short of lofty expectations. Individual scenes work tremendously well, however, like a confrontation foretold by Old Bilbo in an earlier film, where we now get to see how he was rescued by the sunrise just before some grumpy trolls were about to eat him and his friends. Or a tremendously magical and unforgettable scene many fans will look forward to, Bilbo's meeting with the wretched, schizophrenic, cave-dwelling, ring-holding Gollum, portrayed by the vastly underrated Andy Serkis via motion capture technology. This scene is easily the highlight of the entire picture, the conflicted and tragic character brought to life one final time, as Bilbo stares into the creature's eyes and takes pity on him. Freeman's acting is terrific. He's able to seal many scenes, punchlines, and emotions with simple, expertly executed looks and glances. There's no doubt the British acting veteran was perfectly cast for the role, balancing the absurdity of the entire movie on his shoulders rather commendably. Familiar faces like Cate Blanchett, Hugo Weaving, and a 90-year-old Christopher Lee return for some shorter but welcome performances, even if they do feel shoehorned into the already bloated plot. With its many similar-sounding pronouns and complicated mythology, it's easy to lose focus in this deliberately slow-paced 169-minute picture. Jackson's almost self-indulgent decision to stretch out a single 300-page novel into what will likely be a 9-hour film trilogy was a poor one. There simply isn't enough substance available, resulting in an almost boring film at times. The action and battle sequences, however, are breathtakingly well captured and choreographed, and downright thrilling to watch unfold. The elaborate costumes and set designs, coupled with Howard Shore's soundtrack full of flutes and the drums of war, anchor the mood in every scene perfectly. Jackson's able to masterfully weave jokes with some serious emotional tones, hitting each beat perfectly. Perhaps a touch stronger than Fellowship, this fantasy epic rarely approaches the exciting rewatchability of the near-flawless Return of the King. The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. Remarkable adventure and visuals reunited. Well, that was my long review for the film. Now let's check out some of your shorter ones from the YouTube comments. A 10 and a 7 for The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. The few of you who saw and reviewed this film before I did loved it, praising the visuals, acting, humor, and battles. You thought this was an amazing movie. I definitely enjoyed all of that as well, but for a supposed popcorn adventure flick, it is seriously discouraging to have to wait a full hour before anything exciting happens. Plus, I still can't really get past that high frame rate look. I thought this movie was cool.